The first time I tested this, the soil was as dead as concrete. No worms, no crumble, just a hard lifeless crust that shed water like glass. I poured in fertilizer thinking the quick hit of nitrogen and phosphorus would at least kickstart growth. But the result was the same: pale plants, shallow roots, soil still gasping for life. Then came the experiment that changed everything. Instead of another bag of fertilizer, I scattered something deceptively simple: a packet of wildflower seeds. No fancy blends, no chemicals, just seeds most people overlook. And within one season the transformation was unmistakable. The soil softened, worms returned, the ground darkened with organic matter, and plants dug their roots deeper than they ever had with fertilizer. What happened underneath is the reason this method still outpaces store-bought fertilizer today. Fertilizer promises instant results, and sometimes it delivers. Plants green up quickly, leaves look lush, and for a while you feel like the problem is solved. But beneath the surface, the soil tells another story. Chemical inputs strip away balance, leaving microbes starving and earthworms fleeing. The nutrients dissolve fast, washing away with rain or irrigation, and soon the soil is even weaker than before. Fertilizer feeds the crop, but it never feeds the soil. Over time, what looks like growth on the surface is actually dependency. Plants addicted to the next dose, soil more barren each year. This is the trap I fell into season after season until I noticed something. Fertilizer never built soil, it only rented growth. What I needed wasn't a surface fix but a way to restore the living foundation. That's when wildflowers came in. A wildflower isn't just a splash of color, it is a builder. Each species sends roots in a different direction. Some drill straight down like living augers, cracking through compacted clay. Others spread a fibrous mat that shields the soil from erosion. When these roots die back, they leave hollow channels that become highways for air, water, and microbes. Unlike crops bred for speed, wildflowers play the long game. Their roots leak sugars, proteins, and compounds into the ground, exudates that microbes devour. With steady food, microbial life just explodes. Fungi thread themselves around roots, creating these underground networks that pull nutrients from places fertilizer just can't reach. Suddenly, minerals locked deep in the subsoil rise to the surface. Nutrients that once washed away now cycle back into living matter. This isn't just plant growth, it's ecosystem repair. The reason a wildflower mix works better than one species alone is because, well, soil needs diversity to heal. Just think of a meadow. Dozens of plants living together, each doing a different job. Some fix nitrogen from the air, literally capturing it and feeding the soil. Others mine potassium or calcium. Some shade the ground, reducing evaporation, while others cover it low, acting as mulch. Together, they form a system far more powerful than any one plant or chemical input. In my own test plot, I noticed that the mix began to outcompete weeds almost immediately. Not by choking them out with chemicals, but by outgrowing them, shading them, and feeding the soil until weeds lost their advantage. What started as bare, dusty ground became green with a living armor. Beneath it, the soil darkened like a sponge soaking up moisture. And this was happening without a single drop of fertilizer. Within the first month, the change was undeniable. Tiny sprouts quickly branched into a web of roots. The hard crust that used to resist a shovel began to give way. By the time the flowers bloomed, insects had arrived: bees, butterflies, and even predatory wasps. Above-ground beauty was only half the story. Below ground, the worms returned, feasting on decaying roots and leaves. Their castings enriched the soil even more, turning compacted ground into crumbly, breathable earth. By season's end, the soil I scooped up was completely different from where I started. Dark, rich, and alive. When I compared it to the fertilized plot nearby, the difference was staggering. The fertilizer-fed soil was lighter in color, drier, and still resistant to water. The wildflower plot looked and felt like real earth again. The reason comes down to legacy. Fertilizer delivers a burst, but once it's gone, the soil is left weaker. Wildflowers, by contrast, leave behind roots, stems, and organic matter that become food for the next season. Even after the flowers die, their work continues underground. Fertility doesn't wash away, it builds. And because the microbes and fungi have been restored, future crops can access nutrients more efficiently, with less outside input. In other words, fertilizer feeds plants once. Wildflowers keep feeding the soil for years. The beauty of this method is its simplicity. You don't need machinery or even perfect conditions. Just scratch the soil surface, scatter your mix, water just enough to settle the seeds, and then let them grow. They require almost no care. Many wildflowers are adapted to survive in poor, neglected soils. The more diverse the mix, the faster the repair, because each plant brings its own gift to the underground system. At the end of the season, you can mow them down and leave the residue as mulch, or allow them to reseed naturally. Either way, the organic matter they leave behind continues the cycle. By the second year, your soil will already feel softer, hold more moisture, and support stronger crops. By the third, it may look and behave like completely new ground. What amazed me most wasn't the flowers themselves but the microbial bloom they triggered. Fertilizer had given microbes a sugar rush and then abandoned them. Wildflowers fed them steadily day after day through their roots. That steady food supply allowed bacteria and fungi to multiply and organize into a stable community. Once those microbes established themselves, everything else followed. Worms, beetles, even soil-dwelling predators moved in. The soil became a living city, self-sustaining and resilient. You know, this is why fertilizer can never compete. It just can't build a community. It can only drop nutrients, leaving the soil sterile once they're gone. Wildflowers, in contrast, they rebuild the entire web. When gardeners think of soil repair, they often picture bags of compost, synthetic fertilizer, or even expensive amendments. But hey, sometimes the solution is as simple as a scatter of seeds. Wildflowers work quietly, day and night, weaving life back into soil while you sleep. They don't just fix a deficiency, they restore the living cycles that make soil fertile in the first place. So, if your garden feels drained, don't rush for another product. Consider giving your soil what it truly craves: diversity, roots, and the steady work of living plants. The reward is not only healthier crops, but also a garden that feeds itself season after season, without dependence on chemicals. If this guide opened your eyes to the power of wildflowers, subscribe to Hydrohaven for more secrets that revive and enrich the soil naturally. And hey, share this with fellow gardeners, because sometimes the simplest answers, the ones hidden in plain sight, are the ones that last.